it's been a while since I watched the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me too. I can't believe this movie is 20 years old. It is absolutely insane to me.
It's crazy. 2002.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Really crazy. It actually feels like I just started watching it, or I just watched it.
Right.
And overall, I mean, there's some things about older movies, like especially 20-year-old movies, with special effects and stuff like that, where you can kind of tell that's aged. I mean, we didn't have 4K or HDR back then, so when you watch it, it's like a little bit, but it still holds up as far as story. You got Tobey Maguire, Kristen Dunst, William Dafoe as the quintessential Green Goblin at this point. James Franco, which is kind of nuts. You've got J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, which is a perfect casting. You got what else? You got Elizabeth Banks as Betty Bratt, which nobody probably even remembers.
Wait, she was in it?
Yeah, she was Betty Bratt. She was
who was that?
She was J. Jonah Jameson's assistant at the.
Okay, yeah. That's crazy. I didn't even remember seeing her when I watched it. Okay.
You got character actors like Ron Perkins, which nobody cares about. You've got like Joe
Octavia. Is it Octavia Spencer?
Who's that?
Who's the new hot? Like she's in lots of stuff. She's like an Academy Award winner now, I think.
Is she in this?
She's in this very briefly. Hang on a second. I think it's Octavia Spencer. Yeah, she was like the check-in girl at the wrestling or the fighting match.
Huh, I didn't know.
Yeah, Octavia Spencer. She is.
Oh yeah, I see her. Yeah. Oh yeah, she sure was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a lot of people in this movie. I mean, even like Bruce Campbell, of course, makes an appearance, which is great.
Yeah.
So the movie's chock full of people. The budget's healthy. It's $100 million budget, which back then was a lot, but now that's a typical amount a movie costs to make, especially with all the special effects.
Yeah, not a superhero movie. That's
a regular movie.
Regular movie.
Yeah, and the special effects back then were a lot more expensive. I read somewhere that the movie was originally billed for $70 million, but then because of the web swinging and stuff like that, they upped it by another $30 million. So, pretty exciting. But one of the things I loved about this movie is the web swinging. Like we only have a whole bunch of scenes, but the web swinging is perfect. It's
like really visceral. Like you feel like you're either Spider-Man or you're like right there with him. You know, it's not. I don't know. It's not. You're not taken away from it. You're not like. It's not like you're just watching him do it. You know.
It's fantasy fulfillment. A young kid who's reading Spider-Man comics has always wanted to do that, and so to see Spider-Man actually do it for the very first time and look like it is from the comics is a huge thing. It was just phenomenal. It's almost emotional in some weird way.
And I know they were limited with the visual effects they could do at the time, but I think they did a fantastic job.
Oh yeah.
Just the way that they did those shots. I mean, they're pretty quick. But they're so great. So great.
Oh yeah, really good. And there's a little hits and misses for me in some ways with some of the Spider-Man movements, but overall for the time period this was made, you couldn't really ask for anything more. And Spider-Man 2 will fix a lot of stuff when it comes out, as far as like there's better special effects, we got more familiarity with it. Really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the screenplay was written by David Koop, who's written a ton of screenplays for different movies. So if I his IMDb, you'd see it. And the movie was a massive, huge hit. And it came out in the perfect time too, because I don't know, you probably remember this, of course, but the X-Men came out a little while before, and before that you had Blade, and then around the same time you had The Matrix. So you started having movies that were trying to do different things with fight scenes and special effects. The X-Men really tried to help us kind of get our heads around more superhero-ish movies, and then finally with Spider-Man kind of pushed through the veil, and we finally started getting those superhero movies that we love. But the biggest problem with this movie is that it came out right after 9/11. And so a superhero movie based in New York, when you have things exploding and things like craziness happen, I remember seeing this in the theater being a little edgy about it, because 9/11 just happened and everybody's a little freaked out still. But I think in a lot of ways, this movie allowed us to celebrate a little bit and try to get out of our own heads and just get out the house.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that pulling together for New York in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, like the scene where all the New Yorkers they start fighting the Green Goblin. They're like, you New York, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yeah, classic. Yeah.
No, my son
100%.
doesn't get that at all.
No,
because he wasn't alive at the time. So,
but for us, us, you instantly recognize that New York City was reeling from the 9/11 attacks, and I don't think people really understand like how devastating it was when those Twin Towers fell.
Right, the next BC Boys album after September 11th was just like a celebration of New York and everything. It's like to all the boroughs or something is what it's called. Yeah, it's
crazy. So this movie definitely
huge cultural impact, of course,
and it celebrates New York City too. I mean, it's definitely quintessential New York movie. Right. I feel like even though we don't get a ton of different spots here and there, you can definitely tell this is a New York movie. Even that when Kristen Dunst was working as a waitress and her back and forth with her boss in the street, it was just classic. It was really fun. So 100%. So there's a couple of different things I want to kind of bring up as far as this movie, and of course you got some questions, so I'll answer that. But there's a few things I want to mention. First of all, I mentioned the web swinging, which is big. But this movie went against the grain as far as the comics in a few different ways. One,
what do you mean?
Well, first of all, Spider-Man's ability to shoot webs. This was really controversial for a lot of different reasons. In the comics, Spider-Man's smart. He's actually super smart. He's not like Fantastic Four smart, but he's a genius. So Spider-Man, Peter Parker was always considered a genius, like a nerdy, super smart genius, and that's what made him so cool. Was the fact that I'm a nerd. I read comic books and I'm good at school, but people pick on me. But at night I put on a mask and I save people's lives. And I'm Spider-Man, so that's one of the appeal. But when Sam Raimi decided to give him organic webs so it's actually part of his body, so it shoots out of his body. The thing is, in the comics, Spider-Man created the web fluid. He created the web shooters because he's super smart. It's proof that he's smart. Once you take that away from him, then what does he do? How do you know that he's smart? And that was a big struggle for a lot of fans. We actually, the organic web shooters versus the original, that was a big, huge point of debate. I remember being in comic book shops where people were fighting about it. And it seems stupid now, but it's a fundamental piece of the puzzle with Spider-Man. He's smart enough to create web shooters. That's the whole point of him. And the fact that he has organic web shooters,
they only talk about him being smart in the movie. They don't show you him being smart.
Exactly. So imagine if he was able to create web shooters, right? The Tom Holland Spider-Man did in the Homecoming Spider-Mans, and how they did in Amazing Spider-Man too. Allowing him to create those web shooters shows how smart he is, and I think that's a fundamental flaw of this movie.
There were some funny scenes though that you couldn't have without the organic web shooters. But I get you. Yeah.
But there was a couple of different things. Like when he first gets his powers, he's chasing the bus and he grabs the bus and his hands are sticky now, so it grabs the banner and he doesn't understand why.
Right.
But then he has a similar thing in the lunchroom when his webs just shoot out of his body. I kind of feel like there was a couple of different places where his bodily functions were kind of like bouncing off each other a little bit. And it's fine, it is what it is, but that's a massive organic change in to create a system in your body that shoots webs. That's a pretty interesting change for him. But that's the first thing that's very controversial. The second thing, and this isn't controversial really, but this is something that I've always thought about when it comes to this movie. There's a scene where he finally starts crawling up walls. And if you look carefully in the movie, there's these mini claws that stick out of his fingers. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. In the comics, this is never addressed. No one ever says how he's able to cling to walls. In the comics, it's kind of understood that it's a form of telekinesis or some kind of static electricity where he's able, static electricity he would be able to ionize himself, where his hands are positive, magnetism, but he can do it for anything. So he can put his hand to a wall and he can change the ionic connections between his hands and the wall. and it instantly creates a seal. The seal's supposed to be strong enough that nothing can break through it. Like, let's actually talk about that. Like, if you rip him off a wall, like, the seal's supposed to be strong enough to break the wall, but not break his grip. So the grip's extremely strong.
Yeah.
So in the movie, they get away from this and just say, hey, he has claws on his fingers, which I
don't even think it's claws with spiders anyway. Like, isn't it just like really a bunch of tiny hairs or something that
those tiny hairs, if you're a spider and you're crawling up a wall, those little crevices in our paint are huge, like holes for the spider. It might we can't feel it, but the spider can actually. It's so small that the hairs on their bodies allow them to climb, no problem.
Yeah.
But they are claws, so for us they're little hairs. But if you're a spider-sized thing, those are massive claws sticking to a wall.
Well, I just think it would have been cool if it was like, if you're gonna show it, like, you know, do it right, do little tiny little hairs coming out of his hands or something.
Well, you saw the scene with the fingers, right?
Yeah, but it's like little pincers that are coming out of his hands.
Yeah, but I mean, those pincers theoretically could cling to materials.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I mean, Spider-Man 2099 solved this problem by giving him talons on his fingers. Each one has an individual huge talon, so that's how he crawls.
Oh, is that your favorite Spider-Man 2099?
It's one of my favorites. I mean, I'm a huge Peter Parker fan, but you know,
okay,
he's one of my favorites.
I don't like claws on his hands.
Okay, well, that's fine. You don't have to. I think it's awesome. The little talons sticking out of your fingernails. It's pretty neat. But that was controversial too because no one's ever really answered how Spider-Man was able to do that. And I understand Raimi wants to answer some of the questions, but some of these questions didn't need to be answered. I mean, like the Tom Holland Spider-Man, they never addressed how he was able to clean the walls. You know, like I think it's better that way. Not to
spiders can do it, so Spider-Man can do it.
Yeah, but spiders can do
it. That's all the explanation you need.
Okay, right? No, I don't think so, but that's fine. Like,
so then you agree with Sam Raimi? It needed to be explained.
I think that the explanation that Sam Raimi gave was not a good one. I think he gave a different one, but it's fine.
Okay, I don't know. I think you don't need to explain everything.
No, you don't. But in some ways, explain everything. Like Raimi wanted to give some kind of logic to this Spider-Man, and those two things are small. It's not that big a deal. And it does give him a little more character, so it's fine. It's nothing to worry too much about.
Yeah.
But what else? I think that's it, really. I mean, Tobey Maguire was a quintessential Peter Parker for a long time. I think Kirsten Dunst is still the quintessential Mary Jane.
Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst is still the quintessential Mary Jane Watson. I think.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, nailed the part.
Yeah, she's definitely Mary Jane, 100%. Which makes you really like. I get really sad to know that we don't have another Mary Jane right now
Sony needs to do like a sequel to this series.
Sony needs to give the rights to Spider-Man back to Marvel.
Well, here's what they need to do. They need to be like, all right, we're going to do another Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst. Marvel, come do everything for us.
That's what I don't know. I don't know if I want to see that. I don't know.
Wouldn't you be okay with seeing like an older Spider-Man? Just as a one, it's basically going to be a one-off at this point.
I think we're done. Like Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 with the Raimi Spider-Mans are done. We're finished. Let's just move on to something else. Why revisiting things doesn't
Apparently
always...
he had a story that he wanted to do for the third movie that he wasn't able to do.
Yeah. I don't.
Sony like forced some other story onto
the Venom. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to Spider-Man 3. We'll talk about Venom.
Okay, all right.
But I'd much rather Sam Raimi be doing what he's doing now. He did Doctor Strange, which was great. Let's do something new. What
doesn't necessarily? I mean, I think it would be dope if it was Sam Raimi, but it doesn't necessarily need to be it. I just think it would be kind of cool to see an older Spider-Man.
Or it could suck, So I would much.
It could. It'd be way better than Venom.
Nostalgia is a big problem, man, because nostalgia will make you do things that aren't.
Well, I mean, good. You loved it in Spider-Man: No Way Home. So.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, why would they? We don't need to we don't need to revisit Raimi's Spider-Man. We already got him. We already got him back for a little bit. We're done with that. We don't need it. A couple cool things that I thought people might want to know about the movie that I thought
people
was
are talking about like the future of the multiverse. They're thinking they're going to do a lot more of what we saw in No Way Home. I don't know.
I hope not.
Yeah, I think if that like keeps building and building, I don't need to see Tony Stark, like another Tony Stark.
It's like you have to be careful. I mean, just because fans say they want something doesn't mean you need to give it to them.
Right.
Because fans don't know what they want. Like they'll say something at 1 minute and then they'll do something else. And at the same time, like fans will instantly criticize something as soon as it comes out, even if they say they like it. So again,
it seems cool. Like right now, it seems cool.
Nah,
to get Tony Stark, maybe another Spider-Man. To have Childish Gambino show up as the Panther or whatever.
Prowler.
Okay, sorry. But I think that would get old fast.
Yeah,
if they kept doing that.
No, we have these good Spider-Man movies. Let's move on. We don't need to keep rehashing. Let's do something new. I mean, art needs to move forward. We can't be, rehashing. If you want to read about Raimi Spider-Man, go to one of those fan fiction sites and read some of those fan fiction things kids read. Anyway, some things you might not have known about the filming of Spider-Man. Did you know that some costumes were stolen from the set?
Did not know that.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like 4 of them.
What costumes? Spider-Man costumes?
The Spider-Man costumes were stolen from the set, yeah.
I wouldn't mind having one of those. I wouldn't fit into it, but...
You can buy it.
Oh, yeah? Like a big old Spider-Man? Yeah.
Do you remember that scene where Kristen Dunst slips and Peter grabs her and then grabs all her lunch?
That's in the lunchroom scene.
Yeah. That is practical effects. That is not CGI. And it took
I heard that.
156 takes.
Right?
156 takes to know that one. Imagine that.
It's worth it, I think.
I don't know, man. 156 takes, that's a
Listen,
lot.
dude. Have you ever watched a movie being made?
No.
Okay. Shallow Hal was made in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was working there at the time. So I went out on the sidewalk and I just watched them shoot scenes and stuff. And, there's this one scene where Hal's running for a taxi or something like that. And they shot it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And it's not that important of a scene. So I think 100 takes for that really cool effect, definitely worth it.
Yeah, okay. All right. Let's see what else. Couple of things. Oh, did you know Hugh Jackman was almost going to be cameoed in Spider-Man?
In this movie?
Yeah. Wolverine was going to be in Spider-Man.
Interesting. I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah, no, it would have been terrible.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. I think that's it for the first movie. There's nothing really.
I don't need other characters in my Spider-Man movies. But when the Avengers are fighting in New York and Spider-Man doesn't swing through to help them out a little bit, that seems a little bit odd to me.
I think that Sony and probably Marvel recognized that Spider-Man was going to be a big hit, and they understood that the X-Men were a big hit, so they're kind of trying to figure out how they could, make it, start making the universe they always wanted. But I'm really glad that they kind of calmed down from that and didn't do that, because it kind of would have messed up everything.
But I think that's a good way for them to play it, is these interconnections, they don't need to be everywhere, and they don't always need to be two ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So especially with Spider-Man, you can have Spider-Man movies where it's just Spider-Man being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And then you can have an Avenger movie or something like that where it's happening in New York. And so, of course, Spider-Man shows up. Why wouldn't he?
Mm-hmm. A couple other cool facts. The budget for this movie was officially $131 million. But the opening weekend box office was $114 million. And the worldwide gross was $825 million. And the U.S. and Canada was $407 million. And that was 20 years ago. So the movie's definitely made way more money than it actually cost to make. Probably about 10, 12 times. It's a massive hit. Another thing I thought was really cool is that Willem Dafoe, the guy who played Green Goblin, did 90% of his own stunts. And I know he did most of his own stunts for Spider-Man No Way Home as well. So it was one of those things that he said, I will have to be able to do my own stunts. And there's a cool.
He's pretty built in this movie.
Yeah, William
Dafoe.
He's interesting, man. And there's a new movie coming out with William Dafoe, called, oh my god, I saw it in the theater. He's born in 1955, so he's not the youngest guy in the world.
Right.
What is that movie called? Kingdom. There's a new movie coming out. I think Dead for a Dollar. No. The Northman. No.
The Northman. He was in the Northman.
Yeah.
Really, really weird.
It's this new movie that just came out, or it came out a while ago. I gotta find it, but it's really crazy. It's like an art house film. It's really cool.
I'm not sure I would recommend watching The Northman, but Willem Dafoe's scenes in it are definitely interesting.
He's awesome. Yeah, Willem Dafoe's great. All right, you had some questions, right? You want to give me?
Not really too many questions about this. I think I know Spider-Man pretty well. I kind of know Mary Jane, and all of this is from the cartoons and stuff that I watched. But I do think maybe I could benefit and the listeners could benefit from a little more background on the Green Goblin from you.
He's such an extremely hard character to talk about because there's so many things going on with his history. So he's been heavily what's it called when you go back and fix something?
Retconned.
He's been retconned by a
retroactive continuity.
He's been retconned a whole lot. So one of the retcons is that at some point the Green Goblin and Gwen Stacy have an affair, and he has a baby with her. It's a lot of things. And then another thing that people will remember the Green Goblin is he's responsible for the Clone Saga, which I hope never makes the movies. It's insane. So basically, Green Goblin's just this kind of like rich guy who kind of wanted to get a little more power. He experimented with some chemicals, and then he went insane. Basically, he's very similar to the Joker to the point where I think he's probably kind of modeled after the Joker in some way. Like Spider-Man needs a villain, so like make a Joker-like character. Even if you look at him like the way he looks and then the laughing, it kind of fits the same way. But the thing about the Green Goblin that I think most people have to understand he is the quintessential villain for Spider-Man, like the villain. Like even though a lot of his history is kind of a bit obscure, one of the key things that the Green Goblin did, and this is going back to the movie, if you remember correctly, there was a scene where the Green Goblin is holding that kind of ferry cart cable with his one hand, and the other hand he's holding Mary Jane, and he lets go of both of them, and he says, "Choose." And you see Mary Jane falling. Do you remember that? In the comics, it was the most historical
classic trolley problem.
Yeah, that's true. In the comics, Green Goblin he throws Gwen Stacy off a building, and Spider-Man jumps after her, and he webs her leg, but she snaps her neck because the web that kind of like pulls her weird and snaps her neck. And so Green Goblin is responsible for her death. This is kind of in Amazing Spider-Man 2. They actually did that, where Green Goblin did that to Gwen
Was Stacy. It Green Goblin that did it in Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah, pretty much the same exact scene. And so when I saw Amazing Spider-Man...
I don't know if I've ever seen that movie.
Oh, we'll watch it.
Yeah.
That's important.
That might be the first time I watch it, because I don't remember...
Terrible. It's actually
I don't remember another Green Goblin.
It's actually pretty terrible. But yeah, there's a lot of characters in Amazing Spider-Man 2. But so the thing that I think people understand with Green Goblin, especially comic book heads, is like at some point he's going to either hurt or try to kill Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy, and so that's like the thing that scene where she's falling and Spider-Man has to go after her. That's like a 100% ode to the comics, which I thought was pretty great. But the problem with Green Goblin is like, even though this movie does an excellent job with Spider-Man's origin down to the wire, the Green Goblin's origin is always sort of odd. Like, I think that we're constantly trying to tweak Norman Osborn's origin to fit the narrative that we're trying to get. In the comics, there's not really a scene that he has multiple personalities like that, but now they kind of like created them. In the comics, he did do a lot with in the more modern comics. He was I think it was the Secretary of Defense for the U.S. government for a while. He had the Iron Man suit for a while. He created the Thunderbolts. So there's a lot going on with that. But like, there's not one. I can't say that there's one particular trait about Green Goblin that the fans would understand and connect to. Like the Joker is just kind of crazy. He likes chaos, but Green Goblin's a little more amorphous. It's hard to handle with try to figure it out. And
it was very Jekyll and Hyde in this movie. Is that how he is in the comics too?
Yeah, but only because they retconned him. He wasn't always like that. He wasn't always like that.
Okay.
And in the movie, I kind of feel like they didn't really have a sense of what they wanted him to do either. Like in the movie, it's like, hey, I'm going to fight Spider-Man because he's powerful like me. And that's it. That's no real reason for them to fight, but they do, right? And I guess in the comics, there was some similar stuff. Like he was just Spider-Man's villain. But like,
it's weird. He was trying to get Spider-Man to join him.
Yeah. But for what? Like do what? To blow up stuff? I don't understand.
He was mad about losing that contract. And so then he blew up his competitor. And did Spider-Man try to stop him when he was blowing up his competitor?
In the comics?
No, in the movie. I'm trying to remember.
And yet, no, in the movie, Green Goblin like kills a bunch of co-workers that were like trying to go against him in his own company. So that's why he's still in the suit. And then
in the general that was trying to take his funding away killed him. And then Spider-Man didn't even did he get involved in that? He did.
He's tried to stop them, but they got killed anyway. And then he was just there to fight Green Goblin because he was just being a jerk,
right?
You know? Which I thought was great. So yeah, I mean, Green Goblin.
I guess he's just like he's like there's this other variable, I'm in New York. I'm very powerful. There's another guy that's very powerful. I've either got to get him to work with me or I've got to take him out.
I guess. I mean, that movie didn't do a very good job trying to figure out why Norman Osborn was a villain. I think later on with like Harry Osborn, there was a revenge factor involved and stuff like that. And then they did a much better job with Dr. Octopus and Spider-Man 2 than they did with Norman Osborn. But it's fine. I mean, it's a comic book movie. It's okay. One of the most interesting things about this Green Goblin and the movie itself is the movies have created a better Green Goblin than the comics ever did. So when I look at when I look at the movies and I see Green Goblin, I understand him a little bit better. But in the comics, I mean, I've been reading comics since I was in middle school, and the Green Goblin was never a character that I cared about. Like, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure he hit his heyday before I even started reading comics. Because when I was reading comics from like middle school to like going to college, Green Goblin just wasn't anything that anybody cared about. In fact, I think he was dead for a long period of time. And so nobody just cared. And then all of a sudden they brought him back more because of the Spider-Man movies. So I didn't have a whole lot of history with Green Goblin when I was reading comics. But, now he's all over the place. And I love Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. I think he's perfect.
Great.
Yeah, he's perfect.
What did you think of the mask? I know lots of nerds don't like the mask.
The Green Goblin mask?
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not. I don't
have any problem with it. I don't have any problem with it at all.
It's not worth getting mad about.
I mean, like, and in the movie it fits because in the movie Norman Osborn, he collects all of these like African and Aboriginal native masks. So, of course, once he becomes a villain, he's going to have a similar type of mask.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion about that. If you're upset about the Green Goblin mask, that's fine. You can be upset. But I don't particularly care.
Right. I mean, no. I thought it was fine. Totally fine.
I thought it looked cool, but like it's aged. It's 20 years old. So in Homecoming, it was nice that they kind of got rid of that. But again, they don't really have no one really has a good grasp of what they want the Green Goblin to be. And I think the movies did the best job, but the Green Goblin's just if you give me other villains, like I can tell you exactly what their motivations are, what they want to do.
Like he was pretty big in the cartoon, Green Goblin. I remember him from the cartoon.
Yeah, I don't know. And like this is not flying on a little glider like that is not practical. So like it looks like it'll be hard to sit on. It's hard to function.
Turning radius is not all that great.
Yeah.
You got to take these big sweeping turns.
Yeah, I mean it looks cool in the movies, and I think it's kind of neat in our comics as well. But it's still. It's like, even though Green Goblin's been around for a long time, I still feel like no one's really wrote the definitive Green Goblin story or anything like that. So
they need to give him a hoverboard, like do a do a young teenage version of the Green Goblin where he's got like a hoverboard or something.
Yeah, no, maybe. They gave Harry Osborn's Green Goblin a hoverboard in Spider-Man 3.
Really?
Yeah, you saw that.
I don't remember it. I for sure don't remember it.
When we watch Spider-Man 3, there you go.
I'm looking forward to that, and that could be pretty cool.
Spider-Man 3 is terrible.
Or we'll super lame, depending on how they did it. So
yeah, we'll talk more about it. Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything else in this movie that people might need to understand. I think that's pretty much it as far as like the all the back behind the scenes.
I'm happy with how well it holds up.
Oh yeah, it's aged extremely well. It looks great. I would show this movie to anybody and be like, "This is one of the best Spider-Man movies that's been made. It's great."
Yeah, like there's no horrible special effects that look completely out of place.
No. The final fight scene between Green Goblin and Spider-Man was brutal. I thought it was brutal. Like it was more brutal than I remember. It was a pretty tough fight scene. But also the way Raimi has all these nice little horror things that he likes to do, and it was very Raimi-esque as far as like the quick cuts and just the brutality of the fight and everything and the sound. I mean, you could just see that scene and be like, yeah, that's Sam Raimi. He's doing his thing.
Here's one thing I really respect about him and people like him. There's these people that they know what their limits are and they operate within their limits. They don't try to do something that they can't do. Leave it in the movie anyway, even though they failed. And then there's other directors where like, I really want this like cool fighting scene, but we can't do it with actors and computer graphics aren't that great, but let's do it anyway. Let's do it with computer graphics and look like a video game, and we'll just leave it in the movie.
No, he definitely. But in some ways, that there's some fight scenes with Spider-Man, and there's some fight scenes where I see Spider-Man, and like I'm seeing him swinging through the air, and I'm like, wow, he's so agile, he's so smooth. But then I see him running or throwing a punch, I'm like, he looks really clunky. So like the special effect, the CGI special effects they use for the swinging and the actual human component just did not match up 100%. But that's just the time, like the time period's fault. Like we didn't have the technology to do it back then. Like right now they have the technology where they create complete CGI people and just put a head on top of them. You know, so it's totally different now. We're super spoiled. But seeing some of the practical explosions and stuff like that looked great. You know, like you can still see the old school Hollywood idea of not many green screens and just like let's do a lot of practical stuff, which I think was pretty awesome.
I'll say my biggest maybe critique of this movie is that it just doesn't seem like Tobey Maguire is ready to handle emotional scenes in this movie.
No, not at all.
Yeah, like the rest of his acting's pretty good, but whenever it calls for him to like bring on the emotions, he's not ready for that yet.
Yeah, I would almost want to say that when he was filming this movie, I would almost like to say that he was not a good actor. It's just like something.
I mean, I thought he was fine with everything else. Like I really loved his, you know, I'm sick and then I wake up and I'm discovering all my stuff. I really enjoyed how he did that, but just like any kind of emotional scene, the death of Ben, you know, the funeral, just he wasn't prepared to handle like deep emotional scenes.
Yeah, and the funeral especially.
I mean, I'm not either, but I'm not in a movie, so.
But the funeral, especially when you saw Kristen Dunst, her versus him in that scene, definitely. Yeah, Kristen. If you look at Kristen Dunst acting and you see him act, you can definitely see that she's a way better actor. You know,
right?
Kristen Dunst was a way better actor than anybody.
Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten. And I would even say,
yeah, I mean, she'd been doing it for a while. Like she was in Interview with a Vampire, right?
Yeah.
So.
I would even say that James Franco was a better actor. But Tobey Maguire, he did the best he could, and again, everybody loves him, and I think he looks the part, and in a lot of ways, he kind of is looking at such a like boy next door, so it's fine.
Right. Yeah, no, he was great at everything else. Except for that.
Yeah. One more.
They need to give him some onions or something to help him out. I don't know.
He cried. He did the best. Come on. The Uncle Ben scene's always kind of a little not hard to watch, but it's always like, this is interesting. Did you know that in the Homecoming Spider-Man movies, there is no Uncle Ben?
I mean, in the Tom Holland movies, there's no Uncle Ben.
Right? Yeah, which I thought was really interesting We don't. So
we just have Aunt May.
Yeah, so Aunt May's death is the kind of thing that kind of creates like the Spider-Man thing for him. But they did a really good job with Uncle Ben's character. I mean, the idea that Spider-Man could have stopped Uncle Ben. You
don't really need Uncle Ben.
Yeah, you absolutely do need Uncle Ben. Yes, you absolutely do. 100%. Because without Uncle, like the idea is like Spider-Man was being like a little cocky jerk, like not caring about anything, abusing his powers. And then, Uncle Ben gets killed and he realizes that with this power, I have a responsibility to do better. Yeah. And he does. I think the Holland Spider-Mans never got to that point. Where he was actually abusing his powers, but I do think there was a place where he actually started taking his power more seriously, especially when you watch No Way Home. He has a conversation with May about he has a job that he has to do with his ability. So again, I think that this movie Spider-Man pushes his origin story quicker, right? But I think the Homecoming movies have a better payoff. But again, a lot of people disagree, but the death of Ben Parker is a major part of the Spider-Man storyline that has to be in the movie, or it has to be addressed in some way.
I kind of always assumed it had already happened to Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but once it happened to May and No Way Home, then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that hadn't happened yet. So,
any other questions about Spider-Man?
Not for this one, no. It's a good movie, really holds up. Sam Raimi's direction was great in it, I thought. Toby couldn't handle emotional scenes, but
Kirsten Dunst was great.
Yeah,
James Franco was good. I think when we see James Franco in Spider-Man 2, I think he even has a stronger role. And I think the reason why I love Spider-Man is because it allows us to have Spider-Man 2, which I would argue is probably the best superhero movie ever made. Period.
Oh wow, man!
We actually have
that's high praise. That's next week. I'm looking forward to that now.
Oh, it's just a great movie. But again, this movie holds up. And one more thing before we wrap up. This movie was back in the day where everyone went and saw the same movie. Like this was a summer box office bonanza. We all went and saw it in the theater. We all talked about it.
Yeah, if you didn't see this in the theater, you weren't watching it for like 6 months at least.
Yeah, and like you wanted to go see it in the theater because people talked about it. It was Spider-Man. Yep. Everybody loved Spider-Man. Yeah, little kids dressing up as Spider-Man. I mean, like it's just, it was awesome to see people love this character that I love, right? And even and now in 2022, you have all this streaming, and it seems like there's too much to watch at this point.
Right. Absolutely.
It was totally different back 20 years ago. Like the Spider-Man movies where you were going to go see the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, you weren't getting 6 superhero movies in a year.
Oh, no.
Spider-Man was it. That was
it. Yeah. That was the only superhero movie you were going to watch for like 2 years.
Right.
And when Batman and Robin in 1997 came out, it was just a terrible movie. It made people kind of be like, superhero movies suck. Like we don't maybe not want to do these anymore. And part of the resurgence was like X-Men and Blade, but Spider-Man definitely wasn't the one where everybody's like, okay, we can still make a superhero movie. It'll make a buttload of money and everybody will watch it. And it was Sam Raimi who directed it. This director who did these almost B-level horror movies,
Right.
So, again, it's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's wrap up. I got some news you can abuse a little bit.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. What do you got?
Kevin Feige said something very interesting to somebody. The links in the notes. But here's what he said. Okay. He said, according to Feige, it's a great habit for them, one that also helps hone in on their biggest goal, entertain the audience at every turn. And then he says, that's a horrible way to put it, which is what I was reacting to, but it is actually great to sit and go, here's what was done, here's how we could have done it better, and we do that on every project. And I guess to distill it down of what lessons is learned and entertain the audience at every turn, Frank Capra has a quote that our co-president Luis de Pasusu quotes often. I totally mispronounce that name, but he says, which is basically distilled down to entertain first. And so the idea that these movies need to be entertaining is really interesting to me because, like, we just had She-Hulk, the show, come out, and it was trying to entertain but also say something very important. And I think when you look at Eternals, which is trying to be a little artsy, I think very artsy, and then I think Marvel Studios is trying to be like, are these shows, are these movies entertaining? Like when I watch this, am I enjoying what I'm doing? I don't know if I like that because it takes away from a little bit of ingenuity and innovation. But I don't know. I mean, he knows more about this stuff than I do. So
compare this to Thor: Love and Thunder, though.
Oh, God.
Spider-Man to Thor: Love and Thunder. I think that Marvel could use a bit more of this vibe from this movie than the vibe they've been running with for a while.
Yeah, to take it back to the seriousness and the gravitas of Spider-Man 1. Yeah. The problem is you can't put it back in the bottle. Like that summer blockbuster superhero movie, you haven't seen anything like this before. You've been waiting your entire life.
You absolutely have to, though. You've got to reel it back because you can't keep doubling up on everything every year.
Yeah, but
that's impossible to do.
I agree, but here's the problem, right? Like, when I was a kid, when I was in middle school, I always wanted to see Spider-Man on the big screen swinging from building to building like I've always dreamed of.
I would watch a documentary. Give me a Spider-Man documentary, hire some British dude to narrate it, and we're just watching Spider-Man swing around and 100%. Fighting street level dudes, man. That's all I want.
That's the core of the Spider-Man games. Like that's all people want to do. But you can't. But once Sam Raimi gave us that, I can't get that again, right? And so that's the problem.
You can though. I mean, that's what the cartoons gave us every week.
Yeah, but we're not
every
kids.
week. We got a lot of Spider-Man.
We're not kids. We're not kids anymore. So it's a little different. Okay, so next
you can do it. You can do it. You find a way. Be creative.
We gotta be creative. We've gotta be innovative, and we gotta let directors and writers do things outside the box. That's the biggest thing.
I'm really liking my documentary Spider-Man idea. The more I think about it,
you know what? You should do it. You should figure out a way to do it. Okay,
I will. That's my goal now.
So we've got some. We got some villains.
How much do you think Tom Holland could I hire him for? Like, would he do it for like?
He might do it for free. He might do it for free.
Oh, yeah, it's even better.
Yeah. So we've got some rumored villains coming out in the next wave of movies and shows from Marvel. Most notably as Mephisto, and Sacha Baron Cohen is supposed to be acting as Mephisto, and that's going to be.
I've been hearing like people talking about Mephisto.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about him.
Mephisto is he rules an interdimensional world that's very similar to our hell, and so. Most people equate him to the devil, but he's not the devil. It's a long story.
Okay.
But there's a couple other ones that I think are pretty interesting here. Like Bill Murray's character is called Krylar. I'm not sure who he is, so I'm going to
Bill Murray's character in Quantumania.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to study him a little bit. We got Kane the Conqueror, of course. MODOK, we still don't know anything about MODOK, so that's still something in the air. Who
is MODOK associated with in the comics?
AIM. So it's a villain.
AIM, the guy from
no. AIM is an organization.
AIM is an organization.
Advanced.
But the guy in Iron Man 3,
he was
ran the company called AIM in the MCU.
Yeah, so we've already got some problems because MODOK's not going to be associated with AIM. Right. I have no idea how they're going to incorporate MODOK in the Quantumania, so we seriously just got to wait.
So he's not like super associated with Kang.
No, not at all. It doesn't make any sense that he's even in this movie.
Interesting.
So I got a link, but the most interesting one is the High Evolutionary. He's going to be in the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie, so he's the one I'm kind of the most interested in as far as like the new character.
And that is not Adam Warlock. That's somebody else.
No, it's somebody else. High Evolutionary is someone else.
That's the person that created Adam Warlock.
Sure, let's just go with that.
Close enough.
Yeah. That's it as far as news you can abuse. It's been kind of quiet, so I don't think we're going to get any major news you can abuse until after Ant-Man comes out. So we just got to kind of wait.
Yeah. Maybe there'll be something about Ant-Man before it comes out, but
we're going to get another big trailer. We're going to get a quintessential trailer before Ant-Man comes out. It's only like 3 weeks away. So we're going to get another big trailer, but I'm kind of concerned about Ant-Man. It's going to be out. I'm worried that they're pushing the movie to get people to go see it, but I'm worried that people just start. People might be burned out of superhero movies at this point. We might
you think people aren't going to go see it?
Maybe, I don't know. Like
I'm seeing lots of people that say they are getting kind of tired of the Marvel movies.
Yeah,
but are also super psyched to go see Quantumania.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I think it's good that Marvel has this. They've said they're going to focus more on quality over quantity. I think that's a good thing. And also, everybody's been kind of down on Phase 4 because it wasn't Phase 3 of the Infinity Saga.
I think,
but it's setting the board. It's resetting the board. It's introducing new characters. It's setting up some things in the background. There's not going to be a whole lot of tying things together. The thing that's going to start tying things together is Quantumania. That's going to blow the doors open. It's going to reveal all the threads that are tying things together that we that weren't fully visible to us in Phase 4.
Yeah, and Phase 4 did a very good job with the shows. I actually hope that they're going to put more energy, because I actually miss watching the shows more than I do the actual movies.
Right.
So
what's happening with Loki?
I have no idea.
Where's Moon Knight?
There have been rumors. It's all rumors at this point, but we don't know. So
right,
we gotta wait and see.
I mean, the only thing we know about is Miss Marvel will be in the Marvels. Other than that, we don't know about She-Hulk, Moon Knight. What else? What was you say? There was another, I thought.
No,
I don't know. Maybe that's it.
Daredevil. We know that Daredevils will come out at some point. We know.
Yeah.
And these shows are in production, but still, at the same point, we don't know. We don't like the hype train that we had for the season 4, or what's it called? Not season.
Phase 4.
Phase 4. Like, we don't have that right now. So what's kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's all going to get started with Quantumania.
I hope so.
Watch that movie. Grab on. It's going to be good.
Yeah. All right. So remember, everybody, we are currently on many different social media platforms. I'm very active on Mastodon. So you were there.
Mastodon is great.
Yeah,
good spot.
Yeah. Oh, I owe Mike an apology. He recommended that I download the app for Mastodon, a new one called. Which one is it called, Mike?
Ivory.
Yeah, Ivory. If you are on Mastodon and you need a good app, the Ivory app for your iPhone is fantastic. It does cost $15 a year. I recommend just go ahead and eat it. But it's
worth it. Yeah, it's like subscribing to a magazine for you.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's really good. We're also on. I'm not sure how heavy we are on Instagram, Mike. How heavy are we?
Not super heavy on Instagram. But yeah, we're on Instagram. We're on YouTube.
Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit.
Yeah. And Twitter as well. If you're still there, you're not messed up. I went to Twitter the other day just to post something, and I was like, "Ugh, this place is terrible."
Yeah, it's not good.
It's like, why am I even over here?
It's like late night TV.
It's worse than that. It's like It's like early morning TV where your grandparents are getting ads for getting those weird ads. That's what Twitter is right now. It's funny.
Yeah.
But Mike, how can people share us on these platforms, or how can they get us to people's ears?
Yeah, hit that share button right now. There's a share button. However you're listening to this, unless you're driving a car, then just drive, get there safe. Hit the share button. Otherwise, follow us, subscribe, rate us, review us, give us all the stars, thumbs up, all that stuff. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, and then next we're doing one of my personal favorite superhero movies, and probably, in my point of view, one of, if not the best superhero movie ever made, Spider-Man 2. We're talking about that next.
Yeah, I was excited to do this rewatch of the trilogy, but you got me really, really looking forward to Spider-Man 2.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Can't wait to talk about it. Can't wait. There's a lot of different reasons why I think it's an amazing movie.
Awesome.